get rolling. Please introduce yourselves and let's get started.
Well, I'm Kuki and I'm the president of the Nosara Civic Association.
And I'm Nice Alterman. I'm the vice president of the Nosara Civic Association.
Thank you both for coming in. There'll be a couple moments of this that'll be unpleasant, but I'm friends with you guys. I have been for years. But you don't always have to get along.
Yeah,
and quite frankly, I'm upset with you guys a little bit. And it's not necessarily, I know your intentions are phenomenal, but you sideswipe the community and people like myself in some ways. Like we feel like you just totally backdoored us. And I'm not saying that's fully accurate. I'm not saying it's fully inaccurate, but I'm just telling you how people feel. Yeah. And I've sat on this podcast in the studio and for hours talked about the NCA and tried to drive people to the NCA. And then all of a sudden it seemed like it just hurt. Like it just hurt. So we're talking about the new temporary zoning plan that you guys announced was passed and was enacted, and it really hit a lot of us in the community pretty hard. So I'm not happy with how you handled that. And hopefully you're not happy with yourselves with how you handled that, quite frankly.
You're right.
Because that could have been done better. There's a lot of people who want to support you who are kind of on the fence. And there's a lot of people who really hate the NCA from years in the past, from sins of the past. And a lot of us have been trying to fight those old mentalities from way back when. And Kuki, your whole presidency basically has been, hey, it's a new NCA. We're communicating. Everything's going. And then this new temporary zoning plan is enacted, and it doesn't feel
it's not enacted.
Yeah.
Okay, just let's, because I think that's part of the misinformation that's going around this community, and I really want to be strong about it. It is not enacted.
Correct. So I'm bringing up that word, though, because that's how people interpreted your announcement.
Yes.
Your announcement is like this passed, and it read as if people... Like this is here. Take that. Open up, shove it. Like that's how it was received.
Right.
So again, that's why I've been upset with you. That being said, though, the truth of the matter is there's still time. There's all kinds of communication that can take place, and that's what we need to clarify here today.
Yes.
So let's get on with it. So.
And you're right. We sent a communication where we apologize because we can see it now. I mean, it was a mistake the way that it was laid out. It really made people think that it was ready and to go and happening. And that's not the case. Everything in Costa Rica always has a public consultation, always. So we are just starting that part. There were some good meetings with the municipality yesterday that we're going to talk more. And we made that mistake for sure. But we stand by it in the sense that this is what the community needs. The community needs regulations. We've been talking with our membership. We have a lot of support from our membership, even with the people who are upset because of the way it was handled. We admit it. It was not wrong. It was not right. And we do apologize for that. Like I, as you said, we're friends. It was not my intention to make you mad for sure, but we want to correct it. We want to let everybody know what's the real thing, what's happening right now, and also let everybody know that there is regulations, that we've been working in this for a while and that we've been very outspoken and clear about it.
Walk us through that a little bit, because the overwhelming sentiment from Nosara
it's like,
populace,
where does it came from? Yeah,
it's like, hey, just got blindsided.
It came from people not reading. All our monthly newsletters, all of our website, over 5 years ago, I think it was, right?
Yeah. 5 years ago, we really changed the focus of the NCA. We went from being more of a kind of general quasi homeowner association to really becoming a true civic association. And we realized that the only way for us to continue to be effective was to really just prioritize to two or three things that we could do that we feel we could have some positive impact for the whole community. And our whole mission statement changed so that our whole goal is still to make this community like a model community, a sustainable community for all the residents of Nosara. That's really what drives every single thing we do. So we really took it down to 3 buckets. And our 3 buckets are, one, about protecting the parklands, protecting the beach, and community planning, because we all knew that at some point there had to be what's called a plan regulador, which is just a regulatory plan, a zoning plan for this area. And it's in the law in Costa Rica. Every canton has to have one. And we knew that we had to do it. And it's a very long, tedious process, very complex. That's going to be costly and take time, money, and resources. So what we did was we spent the first few years, we really were working on securing our parklands by having them all resurveyed, by trying to, the registro a few years ago put administrative warnings on everybody's property. So we've been working through that. We just were settling a long-standing legal dispute with Richmond Phipps's heirs about some double title property. So we put our attentions there and on the Plan de Manejo, which was the management plan for the beach. So those were the two areas we were focusing on. And we figured we only have so many resources. We're just volunteers. We work as hard as we can. We have really literally one paid person who's a technical person who helps us with these things. His name is Francisco Jimenez. So those were the two areas for the past probably 5 years ago, up until about 2 years ago, that we put our energies into. And now the draft Plan de Manejo is just about ready to be finally approved, so it won't be a draft. We really had a great impact, I feel a positive impact, by working with all the local agencies, by being part of the technical commission that helped draft the regulations. Because initially, when we saw the first proposal, they wanted to have more building right here in Guiones, and everybody was going, what? How can that happen? So through the efforts of not just the NCA, but other community organizations and the work of, Gerardo and Barguillones and the tree planting and Vanessa's work on counting turtles and realizing that this is a sensitive nesting area, we were able to make sure that there really would not be any more new buildings here.
So we brought all that data to Minay that, it was kind of a separation. They didn't really know what was going on in this area of the refuge in Guiones and Pelada. And, it was quite shocking when we came to the first proposal, and it said that basically the whole beach was completely empty and deforested. And we're like, Costas Verdes has been here for years planting trees. So being able to show all that, the recovery, the regeneration of the coastal forest, it's what really saved it really and helped it.
Yeah. So, and it's almost like taking credit for something that you don't see. It's very, very hard because there won't be any more development. But that was something that's a priority for everybody in the community and for our members. So we've been working hard on that. And now we're just finishing up really demarcating all of our parklands by putting in posts and wires and, talking with the neighbors and trying to work at equitable solutions and dealing with encroachments. So we pretty much have that project. It's still ongoing, but that pretty much is under control. So last year we realized we're ready to move on to the community planning, which is we need to have a regulatory plan.
Okay. So let me pause
even
for a second.
Little bit before.
So out of your 3 core objectives, A and B are underway. And doing pretty well. And I'll pause to give you, just say congratulations and thank you, because you've done more for the Richmond Phipps thing and working with her heirs than how many years went by.
And how much money was spent on that?
Yeah.
So, really change the perspective from saying we're going to keep fighting on this, where only lawyers end up winning, and coming to the table and being able to negotiate and recognize that there were mistakes on both parts. And try to move forward. Like it's. Yeah.
Well, I personally want to thank you for that, and I think a ton of people do. So good job, and a lot of everything you just said helped change the image of the NCA from people who were still really mad about things from the past. Those fantastic activities and actions and cooperation amongst sworn enemies, it was phenomenal. So I really tip my hat to you, and that gave me a lot of hope.
You.
And that was our big change too. Like we were not interested in spending all of our precious resources on litigation, that we feel like we really wanted to become more of a collaborative and facilitative organization with our partner organizations as well. And I really feel like we have successfully made that transition.
Like I even remember when we started sending, maybe it wasn't the first time that I was, my first term as president, and we had to send a report, and we were doing it, and then we were like, wow, in community planning we really haven't done much. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And it was because we were so busy with the other ones. We were like, we really have to pick up this thing.
You had some stuff to do.
Yeah,
of course.
exactly.
And there's still a lot of things to stuff. Like, let's not even go into, like, for example, the dump, that there's a whole other issue. So
I think we're like 3 episodes in on the dump, but I still have no idea what's going on.
Oh, gosh. So it was around late 2017 that I was named part of the commission of the Plan Regulador, the Regulatory Plan Commission at the Municipality of Nicoyan. So this is very important to have it clear. Like the NCA as a civic association can come to the municipality and say, this needs to happen. But at the end of the day, the responsibility and who's in charge to make it happen and enforce it is the municipality of Nicoya, right? And we realize, and I, that I think that's a very personal view. Like, we cannot just say, oh, when's the government going to come and solve my life? We have to be responsible citizens and really be active. And so this is what our association does. We're there with the municipality saying, we want to partner with you because we need this. Same as we did with Minaya. We really spin the situation where they were like, oh, here comes the NCA with another complaint. And we're like, yes, we don't like some things, but instead of just complaining and saying, solve my life, we're here because we want to work with you so that we can do this.
Is it fair to say you're lobbying for a plan reguladora, obviously?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, not just lobbying for it, because that is a law. They have to have one. Yes. What we wanted to make sure is that the community could have a voice from the beginning in the plan regulador.
Now, the ultimate irony in this is that people are mad at you because they feel that you basically shut off our voices.
Exactly.
In implementing a plan regulador that you think is great, that maybe we don't all necessarily agree with.
But I just want to say also, we have not implemented a plan regulador. No. That is a long process that we are doing. What we found out about was that we had an opportunity. We saw an opportunity to get some kind of temporary building regulations in place while this longer regulatory plan was going down the pike. So I just want to make sure people understand that, because
let's categorize that a little bit further.
Okay,
so
fine.
Everyone knows we need, and I think everyone
wants.
Everyone wants a plan regulador, and everyone wants a better Nosara.
Yeah.
The realtors, the builders, the architects. Like I've never seen so much anger over something that supposedly so many people agree about.
Thank
and that's
you.
kind of the ultimate irony, right?
Yeah. Yes, and that is important, Rich, because I've spoken with you, I've spoken with Brandon, I've spoken with Brian, I've spoken with Jeff, with the main realtors of the town. And every time everybody's like, yes, we need this. We need rules. Even with the architects and builders I spoke, and they said, at the end of the day, we have to do what the client wants. But if there's rules, we will follow them. And those are exact words from architects in this town. So when we came out and everybody was like, what, when did this happen? It's like, we have talked about it. Yes, maybe not the specifics, because it's very hard. We're talking about working with the government. When do we get really good deadlines on this? Look at the road. Like, how many times did they tell us that the road is going to be done? I think I have said it so many times, I'm even embarrassed to give a deadline. So, when is it going to happen? When is it going to be ready? I cannot tell you. I can tell you we have a plan that it's, have a regulatory plan in 2-3 years. Is that going to be the case? I don't know. I really hope it is. But with the municipality, everything takes more than you would expect.
Let me help you with the first part of what you were just saying. The reason why, and count myself amongst this group. Again, friends don't always have to agree.
Yeah,
and I prefer an open conversation. So that's what we're trying to do. It's not that us realtors or us builders or architects or us whoever, whatever demographic. It isn't that people went from, Kuki, plan regular sounds pretty good, and then you did one, and then we're just like, wait, this sounds bad. It was the fact that you had subdivisions, density, lights, walls, height restrictions, all of these different things with a number, and then an announcement that came out and said, hey, this passed.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's why all of us were just like, whoa, what? Like, a lot of these rules, some of us feel you're going to hurt people, like you really are. And I know some people have to get hurt to make great progress. I'm not denying that, but it just came as a shock. So that's why I'll lump myself into this whole group. That's why we were all so kind of blown away. It was like, whoa, you said this was coming, and we all agree with the rules, but we didn't know the rules were going to be these, and a couple of them, which some of us feel are quite unreasonable and very bad. And this is me speaking here. I think some of the rules as they're proposed are going to hurt Ticos way more than the Gringos. And it would have been nice to have a chance to give some of that insight to you, and that's why we felt the way we felt.
Yes, and as we said before, it was poor communication, and it was also bad intended miscommunication from other people, because there is time and there's going to be time. There's some things that are harsh. We didn't make them up. They come from technical data and from recommendations from experts, like in Minaya, for example. But there is the opportunity for people to give counter proposals. And that's the time that it's starting right now. It's going to be for a while going on, but there is going to be that time. And as I said before, we handle it poorly. I can admit it, the communication, but then, you also have to see, you know, I don't know. I was shocked. I was shocked to see that to learn that there was bad intentions, basically. I have to say in the way that also people started replying to the communications. Like we sent something out that it got turned into something different. And that was really not the intention. So it was like kind of like a 2-layer. We did a poor job of communicating it. And then also people who were really against it took advantage of that to start really making it even worse.
Jumping into our personal relationship, that's why when I first heard a whiff of this, I called and I was yelling at you on the phone, and I wasn't doing that because I disliked you. I was yelling at you because you literally created a storm and you thought it was just a breeze, and I saw it as a tornado. So I wasn't fussing at you because I felt like it. I actually didn't want to even talk about that day.
I know, but I was leaving the next day.
Well, you're leaving on vacation the next day.
I know.
And my point to you was like, all right, if this just announced the way you announced it and you're going on vacation, you're about to become public enemy number one on this whole thing. And you're the most beloved figure around here. So I just saw it as you were doing yourself and the NCA a massive disservice. And you've worked your butt off, and Nishu as well, to get this PR back to where you got it. And I just thought you took it and flushed it right down the
And
toilet.
I appreciate your call. I mean, it was kind of a strong call. I was like, whoa, Rich is really mad. But the NCA is not one person.
Editing this, like I love her. She's great. She's a wonderful kid. I'm really glad she exists. But
she's a young woman, by the way. Now,
don't remind me. But the point is, I gotta fuss at her. Like, and she needs it, and it's not because I want to. And that was our conversation. I was actually looking out for you.
I appreciated it. I know you called me, and I came and talked to you, and we did a really poor job of how we communicated what was going on, and I think we take responsibility for that. I believe we even sent out something. We apologized to the community. I'm willing to apologize again. I think that the way we communicated it left a lot of room for misinformation out there and misunderstandings. Yeah. And, we're now playing catch up on all of it. But at the bottom line is, I think that we still feel like what we've done in terms of trying to get some form of temporary building regulations here in this community while the regulatory process is going on is still the correct thing.
Yes.
When we brought this up, we talk about it at our annual General Assembly meetings. Everybody knows. I mean, people know that we were now, Kuki was part of the kind of review commission that.
Wait, hold on. You're going too fast. People don't know that. That's part of my point.
Well, our members know that.
Of course,
well, some of your members know that.
The ones that read the newsletters, for sure.
Exactly. So let me finish my point.
Okay, fine.
So you should hear this. This is good feedback.
Yeah, okay.
And again, I care about you guys. I don't have to agree with everything, but I do care about you. And here's the deal. You hang out with people of like minds, and you hang out with your members, and you go to your meeting. So for you, that meeting's real. You know that you're on some committee. You've been working on this for what, 3 years now?
2 years.
Okay, people don't know that. People also don't necessarily go to the meetings. How many people are there? Not hundreds and hundreds of people. It's a couple. So in your mind, you're kind of like, well, we talked about this. What's the surprise? And I'm giving you credit here. But I'm also explaining for the people who don't know, who haven't here, that's why you're getting this adverse reaction of how just sideswipe us on this. Where you're coming from is like, we didn't sideswipe anything. We typed this in a newsletter. Can't you read? Well, guess what? People don't read the newsletters. People don't listen to this. Like enough people they don't know what you know. So as you move through your day with your perception and your knowledge, your average person did it. And again, that was part of my call. I was like, Kuki, people it wasn't clicking. So I'm not saying that it didn't happen. Don't get mad at me for telling you this.
No, not mad at you at all.
No.
But that's, a dilemma we've been dealing with for a long time is, how do we communicate in this community? So what we've done is, I'm serious, because there are some.
I don't know. You got me.
We had at one of our general meetings, we had a member complaining about something, and we explained the same thing. We said, but we sent you an email blast. This is what we do for people. We sent email blasts on specific issues to let people know what's going on. We actually have not just an email list for our members, but it goes to like the entire ASADA list that goes out to like way became way more people. We have a Facebook post. So we've tried to figure out how we communicate. And then this person said, well, I don't do any of those things. So we said, well, what are we supposed to do? Do you want us to call you? And he actually said yes. So,
you have all kinds of money to hire people to make outbound phone calls.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, I make a huge salary at this job.
Actually, that's what people say about you. Remember, no good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah.
I can't think of anyone who's stepped up for Nosara probably like the Johnsons have. Let's just say that. Like, as far as a financial commitment to sustainability, buying projects they didn't necessarily need or want just because they thought it was the right thing to do. So I'm talking real good about it behind their back. No, but you work for the Johnsons, you have for a long time. So without their support, you wouldn't be able to be the NCA president and do all the time that you're doing.
And dedicate the time that I do at all. And, those are part of the things that really, I have to say, hurt. Like I don't want to be a politician. I don't like politics. And you really need a thick
Pardon
skin.
me laughing because you are a politician as president of the NCA.
I know, but I'm like, how did this happen? And when I see what politics means in Nicoya, I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to do this. It's hurtful. It's really hurtful what people go out there and just make up things about you. I heard that I plan going on a vacation, after dropping the letter, like if I can afford to do that. I'm like, are you kidding me? I heard that it's the Johnsons behind on this. Like, if I don't have a mind, am I stupid? I don't know how to think. And people think that I'm a puppet that Johnny's pulling some. What is that? I heard so many things that
hurts, doesn't it?
It's just hurt. I heard that I was passing a letter in parties, giving something different from how it was. And you're like, whoa, like, it's hard, it's hard to be pulled out like that. And it's maddening. It really makes me question, what am I doing?
I mean,
right.
It's really difficult because, I'm just older than Kuki and I've done things like this more times than Kuki has. And it
I'm
never,
so happy to have you, by the way.
And it never feels good. And what's so amazing is that do people really think that we can't, when I'm serving on the board of the NCA, I have a duty of care. My duty of care is to the mission of the organization. It doesn't matter what my personal politics are. It doesn't matter what my personal feelings are. What I have to do is be true to the goals of that organization. And I think as a board, that's what integrity means. And we try to do that. We try to do that as a board. It's like, I don't really care like what I think about whether somebody has a 200 square foot lot or a 3,000 square foot lot. That's not really what's important. What's important is what are we doing to make sure that we have sustainable development in our community? And my personal opinion doesn't matter. And I think what's always astounding to me is that people in this day and age, and maybe because it's this day and age and what's going on around the world, can't really accept the fact that there are people who can put aside their personal prejudices and look at what we're trying to achieve and work towards that goal and trying to do it in the best way we can, in the most open way we can. And that immediately, if there's a disagreement or something goes wrong, they automatically start like impugning your integrity, questioning why you're doing it. And I'll tell you what, I've spent a lot of decades, and for me, my integrity is very important. You may not agree with what I do, but I'm not an underhanded person. And as a board, we're not an underhanded board. So it is. It's really a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. If I can jump in, I got my first real taste of what you're talking about when I took over as president of the Security Association.
Yeah.
Because I've had every one of these emotions, everything that you've had, and I've been dumb enough to do a couple terms. And I get nothing out of it. It's actually messed up my mind. My love of Nosara is steadily dropping, actually.
I understand.
By dealing with just this. I don't have time for this. I have kids and bills and expenses, and I live in this small, tiny, gossipy, ridiculously competitive town. And it's heaven when you come here to vacation. It might even be heaven if you come here as actually it is. This is a second home. It's amazing. We all know that. But
we love
behind the scenes is the part that maybe someone listening to this are the people who we're all kind of mentioning right now and our own memories of what we've been through. It's hard. This is a small, tough town to even just try to do something good. Because if your integrity is there, your intention's pure. You weren't trying to hurt anyone. Your intentions were good. But when that gets questioned, it is kind of tough. I haven't figued out how to deal with it.
It sucks. Yeah.
Well, we're trying to.
I really don't know.
We're trying to create a space where hopefully we can have a dialogue with people that disagree with us, and we can do it in a civil manner. Because I look around and I feel like that's my personal responsibility and commitment as a human being. Because I look around what's happening in the world now, and the mess we're all in is because people can no longer do that. And it would be really nice if we could just take the heat out of what we're feeling, calm down a little bit, and talk to one another.
You know what the best solution I've thought of on all of this is this podcast.
Yeah.
You actually that's why this here. I got tired of the social media. I got so tired of these same fights. Because if you think about it, our town fights about the same subjects over and over again in these rife cycles. Certain people feel this way, certain people feel that way, and it just goes and goes. Name a subject: security, water, recycling, trash, all of it. It's the same stuff, and I just definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, right?
Exactly.
And that's what I think our small town does on our key issues. NCA, all of us. That's just that's how it goes. But it's really hard to break free of that. So a long form conversation without interrupting to where somebody just comes in. Yeah, but 1994, you guys put a denunciation on that my worker who did this one thing and so the NCA sucks. Like that's also why town hall meetings are sometimes difficult, because if you don't have it in an organized manner where everyone can kind of say their piece, it's really tough. And just getting people involved is tough. And then getting everyone coherent along the organization process is even tougher. So I have a mad respect for what you're doing, because I'm trying to do it in other areas.
And I really respect what you're doing with these kinds of podcasts, because I think it is necessary. You know, we can't put everything into a 30-second soundbite. We just can't. And the reason we're in such a mess is because that's what we're doing. We're trying to put complex issues into 30-second sound bites. And there's no room for nuance. There's no room for real dialogue on all of this. And so thank you. And I really thank you for the opportunity for being here, especially now.
I appreciate you coming on, especially knowing that I was going to fuss at you.
You know, we can handle being fussed at.
Of course.
We're fine. People disagree with us. We can explain and try to come to some common ground, because I really am basically an optimist, and I believe that we have more in common than we have disagreements on. But you have to come from a place where, if you're coming from a place where you're doubting our basic intentions, then no matter what we say is not going to matter. No matter what we do is not going to matter. So at least we can come from a baseline of saying, look, we're not here trying to run some crazy agenda down the community's throat. This was the community's agenda. This community has spoken about sustainability now for years. There are a lot of organizations that are working towards that. You know, we have the Recycling Association. We have all the other wonderful groups here. They're all about sustainability. That's what we're about too. We come about it from the more environmental perspective than some of the others. We're not an animal
rights
organization.
Let's hit that right now real quick.
Sure.
So when people ask what the NCA is, in the past, like when I first got to Nosara, people described it to me as, it's kind of like a homeowners association. Right. So that's not the case. So go ahead and kind of clarify that right now. And then let's jump back into the announcement. You can get us up to speed as to where we're at now going forward. But what exactly is the NCA again? And statement.
I think we're really a civic association. We represent the community's interest in trying to become a sustainable community. I mean, that's really what our mission is. And every organization takes their piece of like what they're going to work on, their piece of the puzzle. We have come at it from a more we really are. We looked at it from an environmental. And when the organization was first founded in 1975, it was founded as like a combination, because there are only maybe 40 residents here. And they did it as a homeowners association because they took care of everything: roads, security, maintenance, everything, because there was nothing here.
Fast forward to 2015 though, and it changed.
I think but it's beautiful to see how in the bylaws in 1975
they still talked about the environment.
They still talk about the environment,
about protecting the environment,
and it still talks about making sure that Nosara is a place that grows in a smart way, but that can fit everybody. So it's not only about those residents that were here, but it's really talking about the people in the whole district of Nosara, and respecting the culture and respecting the nature. It's beautiful, and I thought it was like visionary, at that point.
Which is interesting. So let me play the devil's advocate side of this.
Sure.
So you guys just said fit everybody. You also said and like it kind of encompassing people and feedback and letting everyone have a say. It's ironic that you find yourself in a spot where everyone feels that you're not wanting everybody and that you also are not willing to hear what other people say. Now, you came on here today to say that you are, let me see if I'm right. I'm trying to speak for you.
Sure.
You are willing to hear what people have to say.
Of course.
Very much so. There's plenty of time on this other thing. And you don't want everybody, though, because the rules themselves that are in there basically block out a massive percentage of the populace from having access to living close to the beach in Guiones or Pilata, for that matter. So I guess here's what I'm saying. In 1975, you could say you want it for everybody, but in 2019, well, there's already a lot of people here. Times have changed. Like there's a lot of the lots are built on. A lot of lots have already been subdivided. And I think your point is, hey, we got to evolve with the times a little bit. We're out of space. Back then, we had a whole lot more space. We could say we want everybody in.
Well, also back then, there were 700 lots in this entire project. 700. And nobody had ever envisioned that there would be the kinds of growth, the way it's been growing. Nobody, if they had what we call CC&Rs in the States, which said nothing could be subdivided, you'd be dealing with just 700, basically, homeowners and or business owners. And that would be it.
Let's
a very small, manageable amount. What we have now is far different than it was in 1975. And nobody imagined. I started coming here in 1991. I never imagined the kind of growth that we're seeing now. I'm just saying, things are way different.
Right? It's not perception. Yesterday, the municipality said it. In the last year, we grew 42% from one year to the other. So the Nosara growth, 42%. And, we also have we're the hotspot of segregation as well. From the municipality data. Nosara, all of Guiones, it's where the most segregations are happening. So this is not something that we are making up, or it's perception, or it's people that don't want people to come in here. This is realizing that the path that we're walking to, it's not going to take us to a very bright future. It's not going to be a sustainable future, which is what not only Nosara needs, but the world. And we're in a position to be an example. And for me, that's priceless. I feel as a Costa Rican, I feel so proud every time that I hear that my country is being named worldwide, because we're being an example in the world. Our energy is renewable. We're looking to be carbon neutral. We're looking into changing the fleet so we can have electric. This is the kind of things we do. This is what Costa Rica does. We set examples in the world. And what we're trying to do with this regulatory plan is going to be that for Nosara. I thought that's what people wanted when they came here, right? Why did they come to Costa Rica? Because it's green, because it's beautiful, because Costa Rica cares about its country. And that's why we do these kinds of things.
That all makes sense. And I'm not disagreeing certainly with where you're coming from. I think they say the devil's in the details. Yeah. So let me run this by you. Who is the NCA? Are you or me or any of us? Who are we to say, yeah, I'm here now. I have this set up. Oh, but you can't. You're too late. That's a big question that's out there right now. So what would you respond, or how do you answer that?
The way I'd respond is, coming from the United States and coming from California, I've never lived in a place that did not have some kind of rules and regulations about building and about zoning. We're started from a place where there really were no specific rules about zoning. Because of the type of growth and development and the tremendous influx of people over the last 8-9 years, everyone realized that uncontrolled growth is not what anybody wants or needs, that there has to be some form of rules and regulations and some basic zoning here. And that was universally accepted. Okay?
Yeah, I don't think anyone disagrees with that.
Okay, so nobody disagrees with that. But we also know that things take a very long time to happen here.
I think everyone agrees with that, too.
Okay, so the regulatory plan process is taking a long time. The one that was submitted, I don't know, maybe it was 9-10 years ago, got thrown out completely. So that's why we had nothing in place. We're seeing in the last few years especially an unbelievable increase in development. And we found out from looking at that one slide that Josue from the chief engineer in Nicoya showed us at the meeting, that we had a growth of 42% growth in 1 year.
Was that requested permits, or what?
Actually built space. And I think we can find you the slide that shows that, about the amount of square meters that have been built here. Well, 42% a year growth, year over year every year. What's going to be left? I mean, you can't just have completely unregulated growth and expect that we're going to have the kind of environment that drew everybody here in the present. Look at Tamarindo. Everyone can give examples. When I lived in Mendocino, we said we didn't want to become Carmel. You can look around the world when there's a place that's really as special and wonderful as Nosara is, it draws people here and everybody wants to be here. But the reality is that everybody can't be right here. Well, could we support 1 million people who want to be here? I mean, if you want to take it to its absurdist principle.
The carrying capacity.
We have a carrying capacity here. We have a fragile ecosystem. It's not NIMBY. It's the municipality. The municipality looked at the statistics when they were during the process of this regulatory plan process. They looked and they saw that the 2 fastest growing areas in the whole canton are Nicoya and Nosara, with Nosara even outstripping Nicoya, and they're concerned about it. And they realize we have to fast track a zoning plan. And we all know that. But what do you do in the meantime? Because fast tracking can still be 3 years at a very fast pace.
Right. And that's important. It doesn't come from something that it's selfish. It's not like we don't want more people to be here. I mean, come on, we all got here. I'm Costa Rican, but I wasn't born in Nosara. I'm from San Jose. It's about realizing something that the entire world is realizing. What we have been doing, it's not the right way. It hasn't been correct. And that's why we're putting so much pressure in our planet. So the fact that we have been doing it like that doesn't mean that we have to keep doing it, especially if we now have the technical data that supports and, puts it in our face. Hey, people, the way that you're going, it's really not going to play out good for you or for the people who are going to be coming. So it's not about being selfish or anything like that. At all, it's about realizing that we have to change our patterns. That's it.
And the other part that what drew people here is the beach, obviously, because we have this fabulous refuge. And I think one of the most fabulous beaches in the entire world. And we love it. It's a fantastic place. And the 240 acres of parkland that we own that keep it green. So we won't look like Tamarindo ever. But because we live in a buffer zone, because we border on a refuge, the first 1,000 meters back from the refuge has a tremendous impact on what happens in the refuge. And when Yemi, who's the administrator from Menai for the Astina National Wildlife Refuge, told us, Menai just doesn't work solely in the refuge. They look at what's bordering on the refuge as well. So we have extra obligations for that. And I live, down in G section, very close to the Gilded Iguana, who did a beautiful job of, kind of recreating what was there. But the amount of development down there and the density of the development and the amount of restaurants and people preparing food in a very small area where I have questions myself about what about grease traps? What about wastewater? What about runoff? Is this the kind of development where there's no parking? You can't even walk. You can't even get down the street. And we need to look at that, because if we don't have some kind of regulations in place, I feel like we could look like, if you have been down to Santa Teresa, it's unbelievable down there. They have only one street, so it's impossible. You smell sewage everywhere. What I'm saying is we can look at examples, and we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to say, whoa, we want to accommodate as many people as we can in a responsible way.
Okay.
And if the only answer is that people say, well, I want to be here and that's reason enough, well, then you have to do it in a responsible way. That's all we're saying.
Yeah. All right. So we all want to plan reguladora of some form. We all seem to understand it could take a very, very long time. We all want to have a better Nosara, but this plan and this version seems very unfair. A lot of us, myself included, have problems with this particular version. And it doesn't seem like it was extremely well thought through on a couple different angles. And again, my biggest concern is actually Ticos who don't have a lot of money, because what could happen with Guiones on the current plan is it could turn into a Cape Cottage situation. The people who do have the ability to buy within that close to the beach, well, they have the ability to buy there, and limiting growth isn't necessarily a bad thing for the environment at all. And we want the environment to win, and the planet's important, and all these fine things. But where do you draw the line for the person who, a lot of the Ticos here, the way they receive their inheritance is through a piece of land. It happens all the time. I have loads of Tica friends who they get a small lot and that's all their inheritance is. And now that's basically just been eradicated completely.
No,
And
that's not correct.
No,
It's-
I'm telling
yeah.
you what this is what
The people feel.
This is what the people feel. So it doesn't matter what you know if they think that. Your job is to help them understand what.
And I'm happy we have that space to tell them that that's not correct. That's not what's going to happen. First of all, these are temporary regulations. They are very basic and simple because that's the data that we have to support them. Once the regulatory plan comes, there's going to be a ton more of studies and there's going to be way more layers than there is right now. So the fact that we right now with this proposal only have 2 zones, one direct impact and indirect impact, doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen when the regulatory plan is enacted. It's going to be very different. That's the first thing. The second thing is that this is a first draft. We needed to start from somewhere. And it's not about what the NCA wanted. This first draft comes supported by technical information and from suggestions that have been, overseen by BNI. So it's not what I want. It's not what Nises want. It's what it's out there that it's supported by data.
Okay, the data, are we able to talk about that on here at all, or do we need to stay away from that? The data that it comes from, because that's what people, like in after you guys made the announcement and it caused a stir in the community, there was a meeting that was held by concerned citizens who got together to say, hey, what the heck's going on here? What are we going to do? Yada, yada, yada. And it always came back to that data part. So people were like, well, where's the data? Let me see it. And then other people were like, well, I don't care where they got this from. This is bad. And then there were other people, like everyone was really mixed on this data. So there's not many towns like Nosara in Costa Rica or the world for that matter. So how did they get data for us? I think it's a valid question.
Of course, it's a valid question. But, people don't read our newsletter. Do you think they're going to read a 200-page of technical information from data? They're happy to have it.
Maybe
for
you
sure.
can just explain some of the.
All right. So this is what's important. As we know, we live in the buffer zone of the Austin Wildlife Refuge. For many years, the Austin Wildlife Refuge has been trying to have a management plan, right? Part of that management plan includes these fragility index studies that are very well documented and have specific guidelines in terms of reference in order to make these fragility index studies. Ostional has these studies. They were approved in 2009. And one of those is the fragility index studies for the buffer zone of the Austin Wildlife Refuge. It's very technical. It includes information of geology, hydrogeology, many, many things. And that is where we're basing these regulations. That's very important to understand, that this is not something that has been improvised or anything like that. Those studies are there. They're public for everybody to see them. And those are the ones who back these regulations.
So this wasn't you and me sitting around at a dinner party saying, we got to save the planet. I just watched this documentary. We got to do this now. Earth power. Here we go. It wasn't that, is what you're saying.
No, it wasn't that at all. And and again, I think it's almost to a certain point insulting that they think that we're there kind of like waving it and see how do we do it. This requires a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of analysis and studying of the situation.
So just to clarify, again, people are listening to this, hopefully. You didn't come up with 1,000-meter lots. You didn't come up with basically barely 2 stories. Kind of.
And 40%.
You didn't come through
No,
with the 40%.
no.
It was not you that came up with those numbers.
No.
You didn't come up with it. You guys did lobby, quote unquote, to get the temporary plan in place, and you saw a window to where that could happen and you jumped on it.
Yes.
So talk us through that if you would.
I think the main misinformation is that this is the NCA's plan. This is not the NCA's plan. What we lobbied for, we saw an opportunity to get some very basic zoning regulations in place while we were waiting for the regulatory planning process to end. And we found out in early part of this year that the municipality internally could pass certain rules around lot size, footprint, how much you can build upon.
So you learned this early 2019.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And then so we promoted that we felt like we would like to have some regulations in those areas to do it. And then Kuki, I'm just going to turn it over to you because you know the process more intimately than I do.
Yeah, we hired an environmental lawyer in Nicoya. Her name is Maria Fernanda Vargas, and she started working on a draft. That draft used that technical information that I mentioned before. It also used similar regulations that exist in the Camaronal Refuge, a little bit south of us, and in the Baulas National Park, north from us also. Once the first version was done, it was presented to MINAE that gave feedback on it and made corrections and gave a letter of support to the municipal council, right? Because this is what's important. MINAE had the data, but they can only do the recommendations because the area of the buffer zones is the responsibility of the municipality. So what can MINAE do is say, these regulations, we're in favor of it, and they will support the Ostina Wildlife Refuge.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, it's the municipality that has to approve them. So the first draft comes to the Regulatory Plan Commission, that is the one that I'm part of. And, I'm one of 7 total members, including engineers, architects, civil engineers. I'm an economist from profession. So we analyze that. It passed unanimously, and it goes with a recommendation to the Municipal Council of Nicoya saying, we are forward for this and we recommend that you guys vote forward.
Is that board consisting of people solely from Nicoya outside of yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So there's 2 people who are members of the council, 2 people who are members from the administration of the municipality, and 3 people from civil society. That's what they call it, like Sociedad Civil, right? And I'm one of those 3 ones. Once it goes to the council votes that it needs to go to another commission, the Urbanism Commission. It goes to the Urbanism Commission. It also reviews it and it says, okay. And then it finally comes to the council again, to the Municipal Council of Nicoya, who votes and passes it. Once that votes, it says, this is a first version. This is what we want. That starts a process where then it has to get publicized in La Gaceta, which La Gaceta, it's, the official national paper. Every law in Costa Rica or any regulation has to be publicized in La Gaceta. Once it goes into La Gaceta, it opens a term that legally it has to be for at least 10 business days. That's 2 weeks for people to send feedback. The municipality to hear that feedback, make correction until it goes to publish again, and then it becomes official.
Okay.
So again, this is very important because people are saying, what are we going to do just in 10 days? Well, no, it's at least 10 days, but the municipality can decide if they want to give it more time. And so what has happened is that first, it hasn't gone yet to the first publishing. Right. So right now we have time and there's people already sending feedback and recommendations of it. We have received already, the municipality has received already information. And what was discussed yesterday in the meeting that we have with the municipality is that they're going to give 20 business days, which is a month, for people to send feedback before it even goes to first time publishing.
Okay. Pause. We just covered a mountain of information, and let me ask you a question about where you just started or where you just ended. As of yesterday?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or what day?
Yesterday.
So as of yesterday, what's the date today? I forgot. 23rd? 24th?
24th.
Something about that.
Okay. So as of the 23rd, there's 20 days. So for
A
feedback.
month, 20 business days. There's going to be a month.
Okay. So we're going to have 20 business days as of May 23rd to gather said feedback. Mm-hmm. Okay. So who's going to be able to provide this feedback?
Anybody can provide the feedback.
Okay. So we had a big meeting yesterday.
Yes.
And before we go into like the meeting itself, we have 20 business days to get the feedback from whoever has something to say. Basically, this is the time to say it.
Yes. And also for people to kind of organize in groups. And that's what the architects are doing. The architects are meeting and talking to come up with a proposal. And in fact, I believe there's a meeting scheduled for Monday at 4 p.m. with Josue and some of the architects and I guess other interested technical people want to come and talk to him and start giving, specific feedback.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's not limited just to the architects.
No, everybody.
anybody.
This is important also. The municipality comes here to Nosara every week on Mondays from 8 to 3 p.m.
Okay,
so
and can you
anybody,
tell us can you say where people can go to
sure.
participate?
It's at the offices of Adine, which is next door to the Kitson Library.
Okay, so right beside the Kitson
Kitson Library. They can go in there.
between
Right.
8 and 3, you said?
Yes, and Josue is there and is encouraging people to meet with him. And if they can't do it, they can meet with him in his other office hours when he's in Nicoya.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that is available. We're also going to gather feedback from people that they could send to us. And we're even discussing maybe having see if it's best to have a meeting or just have, an email thing to gather input to then pass on to them as well.
After the first announcement went out, this was passed, or however you want to categorize it, people were upset, and I started talking to them. So after we had that meeting at the Guild of Iguana and people basically started voicing their concerns, I noticed in the crowd there was different demographics. You had builders, architects, realtors, people who haven't even built yet, haven't even bought yet, and then people who had. It was a big assimilation of groups, and everyone seemed to have a unified approach that they wanted a regulatory plan, but at the same time, they didn't really seem to like this one. So I was trying to figure out which group felt which way. So I categorized it: realtors, builders and architects, existing homeowners, and the people who have purchased land but not yet built. Out of those, which group do you think was the most upset? There were realtors, then there were builders and architects.
Do I get a prize if I get the right one?
Yeah. And then, of course, people who have purchased land but not yet built. Like out of that.
Probably our architects.
Architects and builders were by far and away the most troubled and upset. Who do you think was second?
Realtors?
You would think. It was actually the people who've purchased land but haven't built yet.
Oh, okay.
Realtors actually came down next.
Oh, okay.
Second to last out of the categories as far as being upset. And existing homeowners were by far and away the least upset.
Mm-hmm.
So
that makes sense.
It does make sense.
Yeah.
And your members are mainly existing homeowners for the most part, right? Mm-hmm. So that's good news for you that you're not going to lose a ton of your members over this. The bad news is you might not get any of these people who haven't built yet
to become members.
Well, we hope that when we can really have these opportunities to more fully explain the situation, that won't be the case.
Yeah, let's hope not. So
and
builders and architects, like let's talk about them for a minute, because they're by far and away the most upset. What message or what do you get out of that? Like, what's your take on it?
I have, personally, we've been talking with builders and architects, and I think it's a great thing that that's our demographic that is more upset, because they're the ones who really know the reality of what's being built in this town. Mm-hmm. And they're also the ones who are going to be able to come back and say, technical reasons behind it. So they're going to be saying, we don't agree with this because of this, and this is what we propose, and this is how we're backing it. So I think it's going to be great. At the end, we're going to end up with more complete and richer regulation that we have right now. The point is that we have to start somewhere. This is the first draft. It has to start somewhere. If we were to come with an open blank letter and one blank piece of paper and say, let's draft this together, what should we do? Oh my God, can you imagine? We would still be there. It would be impossible to make everybody, all these different demographics that you already said that have very different thoughts, to have them to agree. It would be impossible. At least right now we're in a position where we have something that it's a phase one that is back up with technical information. And now people can enrich it by saying, okay, let's change this because of this.
Okay.
But, sadly, and, I don't want to offend anybody, but my feeling or my thoughts, those are not going to cut it in these plans. You have to say, this is why, because of this. And I think we already got yesterday, even Josue got the first proposal from an architect firm, and it was so well presented, and it was already saying, if you make this height, this is how much the thickness of the floor is, this is how much it is, we propose this other thing. That information can totally be incorporated for sure.
So that's fantastic news.
And also to let you know that Josue is extremely open to that, not only open to that, but wants to hear that kind of feedback. So I want
that's
people,
refreshing.
Right. And I want people to understand that this proposal, which is not enacted, is going to be not even published for a month, is going to be changed, I'm sure, based on if people can come back with good technical information.
Okay,
and
so
Josue said it pretty clearly. The Muni wants to work with the community. They're not here to destroy the community. They're here to try to have a balanced approach that protects the environment and protects people at the same time. Will everybody be happy? I'm sure that we'll never come up with a plan where everyone's happy, but I'm also sure that he's going to take a lot of feedback, especially from people in the trades who have, technical backgrounds, and it's going to be accommodated. So we don't even know what the first proposal that's going to be published actually looks like. There's 1 month for everybody to get that feedback. It'll have to be processed, and then the Muni will come up with what that first proposal to be published will look like.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So are you saying that, well, back to your point earlier, that's what I was going to tell you. The good news is the architects are talking, the
Yes.
builders are, and I've personally spoken with many of them who have fantastic suggestions and they want to be heard. And I think they all feel a little relieved that they can be heard.
Absolutely. We want them to be heard.
So that's good. Again, but none of us knew that by the way you guys initially said it. So this is all a great...
We blew it. I mean,
that's all right.
I just want to apologize over and over again for the fact that we really blew it on how we rolled it out.
Right.
And
So thank you.
know that.
Thank you for that. And I think that means a great deal to a lot of people listening to this who hear that, because who's perfect amongst any of us? Like, we all make mistakes. So, but that being said, let's move forward. So the builders and architects are getting together in a cohesive manner. They're making really good suggestions, and you guys are stoked on that.
Yes.
So that makes me happy. Like, that takes my number one concern and pulls it a great deal down, is that I thought this was done, and it's not. So thank goodness. Now, at the same time, they're really smart people, but at the same time, they're not trained at doing huge, big, massive plans for an entire massive community and environmental studies and all that type of stuff.
Of course.
So I guess that'll be a gray area and an issue for debate for a little while. But back to, I wanted to ask a question on what you said, Nice. If the builders and architects and the community comes together and makes some good suggestions and we want to put that in the plan, does that reset the clock for another 20 business days? Or is something for sure getting published in 20 business days from
Something's
yesterday?
going to be published.
Well, it may not be 20 business days, because that's the period that he's asking for people to give feedback. I'm sure he's going to take that feedback, process that, and come up with what that thing to be published will look like. So maybe it'll be a week after that. I don't know.
Okay, so something
will be published.
Yeah.
And then after that's published, there's going to be another month or 20 business days for further comment. And the reason I believe that Josue said, let's postpone publishing anything now, is to get most of the feedback up front so they can make the changes and make the accommodations that are needed.
I know a lot of people are concerned that how are we going to get scientific basis or to override whatever they feel they already have in this short amount of time, and they feel like it's kind of being rammed through. Like, what do we say to those individuals?
Well, I think it's not being rammed through. That's number one. And in terms of scientific, there's technical reasons. If there's a technical reason for why, like, what was the intent behind having it 2 stories? Well, Josue is open to understanding that houses here that are 2 stories, maybe 6 meters is not enough for even a 2-story house. So that's where the architects can come in and advise them and saying, look, to really have a 2-story house in this zone, we need, I don't know, I'm not an architect.
So many
10 meters to 8 meters. I don't know. They're open to hearing that and making those changes. That's all I can say. So I think people should
But if we can't agree on it, does it get published in the old way, or how does it work if there's still some ambiguity there?
Well, it's the Muni that's going to come up with the regulation. It's not our regulation. It's the regulation from the municipality. They're going to take all this feedback and come up with a regulation that they're going to publish. And I'm sure everyone in the community will have an opportunity to see that.
So we can say
and
it to
comment
them,
further.
but then we have to wait and see how they digest it, and it's up
And
to
the
them.
municipality said, Josue said
Yes.
it, everybody who sends their feedback, make sure that it's in writing and that you put your contact information, because they're going to reply them. They're going to say, yes, we're going to take it into account, or not. What you're saying is not correct because this and that. So, there is a process.
Yeah, that's cool. So what I was going to tell you, between the realtors and some existing homeowners, but several of the people who've bought but haven't built yet, they've been emailing me in all kinds of information and thought, suggestions, and ideas.
Yeah.
If I have a problem with one of these items, and let's just say it's the 40%, which actually I kind of do have a problem with. So let's role play that one. So I can send my concerns to you, and you'll get it to Nicoya,
Of course.
even if you disagree with me.
Of course.
You'll still send it.
Yeah, it's not our decision.
Okay, so that's the stance that everyone on the NCA takes, or is it more of a closed group of, oh, let's ignore that, I don't like that?
No. Feedback is feedback. And I think we can get probably Josue's email address out there to post and let people know. So if they want to communicate it directly to him, they can pass it on directly to him as well. we're just trying to facilitate this process. If people want to do it individually, they're certainly welcome
That's nice to
to.
hear. So you'll listen to your members in the community.
Absolutely.
And they can say whatever. You're not going to block it off your personal agenda.
No. But we're just trying to explain a little bit about the process so people know that just by voicing an opinion, it's not going to hold as much weight as if you have some kind of technical reason. You don't have to be a scientist, but some kind of technical reason that meets the intent of what they were trying to do. That's all we're saying.
Well, it seems like if that's the case, the best form, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, it seems like the best form of communication is to get to the Monday meeting with the technical people and try to get your insights to them if possible.
Yeah.
And then if not, maybe get it to them electronically or send it to me and I'll get it to them if possible. But you're even saying you guys you'll still take the feedback and get it to people without blocking people.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Well, that should, I hope, would put a lot of the populace at ease, knowing that they will be heard and can be heard and no one's going to try to block them for that. That's a big statement for you guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's good news. Now, the best thing is to go meet there or get it to them. But what if you can't? I guess we email it.
Email it. Yeah.
All right. We'll get Josue's direct information up and we'll put it in the notes and on the screen while this is playing. You guys, though, how much of the NCA is involved in the process going forward, or have you pretty much done your job and are able to pull back? Like, where do you sit in the whole thing at this point?
Well, I'm still part of the commission, of the Regulatory Plan Commission.
So the way the NCA is involved, essentially, is you're a part of the regulatory commission that's there.
Yes.
But it's not the NCA sitting around
No.
plotting and scheming any further to make these rules.
I'm a voice. I'm one voice of 7 voting members, so...
Just to let you know, we didn't sit around plotted and scheming even in the first place. I really want to make that clear because
I think you should make that clear.
It's annoying. I know people are annoyed by us, but it's annoying to constantly hear those kinds of reasons being stuck onto us. That's not what place where we come from. It's just not a place where we come from. We blew it on how we put the word out there, and we are paying a heavy price for that, and we have learned a big lesson for it. And I'll apologize 1,000 times for that, but I'm not, this other thing about us having these intentions of trying to, someone called me an eco-terrorist the other day. It was like, all right, wow.
Was that a compliment or a put
I
down
don't
to
know.
you?
I wasn't sure, but
I think if you're a terrorist, at least being an eco one is.
Yeah, I was gonna say terrorist sounds really bad.
Eco's not so bad, so I don't know. I'm not sure. Do I care about the environment? Absolutely. That I'll admit to 1,000%. And
but
do
this
I want to
plan
keep
is not
this
your
place?
personal agenda, essentially.
Of course, it's not my personal agenda. We stand for creating a sustainable future for Nosara and preserving the unique character of the place we all love. Everyone agrees with that statement until you might tell them, or they might think, and we're not telling them, but until rules get passed that might maybe impact what their original plan was. And then people all of a sudden are not so happy about preserving the unique character of the place we all love.
So I shouldn't call Kuki tomorrow and start yelling at her about the 40% number and how Kuki came up with that.
Exactly. We didn't come up with any of this. We talked about we realized that the municipality could pass internal rules about the most basic proponents of zoning, and those basic proponents were lot size, height, and footprint. And when you talked about fences and stuff, those were recommendations. They are not rules and regulations. They're suggesting that instead of putting up walls, why don't you put in native plants and put in green walls? These were suggestions. They are not rules, and they are not the rules that they're asking now. So people are starting to really go off the deep end over this, because I understand that there is a lot of heat still out there and emotion, and if people could just take a deep breath and really look at what is happening and is not happening, they can see that this is an open process. Yeah. There is room for change, that Josue is welcoming that kind of feedback because they want to put out some temporary rules and regulations that's going to benefit the community. And with saying that, I know there'll still be some people that will not be happy with what's there. And that's the truth with any rule and regulation around the world. You will always find someone that feels like, how dare you? And there are some people that feel there should never be any rules and regulations. And if you want to go to Houston, Texas, you could look at what a place with no zoning looks like. What can I say?
So, hey, Kuki, I have a personal question. So, are you looking forward to volunteering to be president of any other organizations in the near future?
What do you think?
In the Nosara area?
I think my hands are pretty full with this one.
Well, I'm resigning as president of the Security Association in November. So if you want to grab that, it's available.
I thought you said you were our friends.
Yeah, right? Thank you, Rich.
Well, for this, maybe I could call it a favor. Take that one off my hands.
I want to thank you for being president of the Security Association.
You, yeah.
Seriously, these are all thankless jobs. These are really all thankless jobs. And I think we all do it, not because we're angels or purists, but I do community service because that's something that makes me feel good. And I feel as a community member, I can't complain about what goes on in my community unless I'm willing to step up and do some work to improve what goes on in my community. Yeah. Otherwise, I feel like it takes a lot of my own opinion and validity away.
You nailed it, in my opinion. We're definitely on the same sentiment there. Let me ask you a question. This is the most gossipy little town I've ever even been close to, I think. And now that I find myself deep on the inside of it, I don't know how to get out of that cycle. Like people here, this is my opinion. You don't have to agree, but you can if you want, or disagree, whatever. People here are so quick to talk.
Oh my God.
And throw stuff.
You
and
know
even
what?
Type it.
Yesterday meeting ended up at noon, and the second one started at 1, right? When somebody came at 1, they were already saying like, oh, I heard this about this meeting. I heard this about this meeting. I heard somebody storm out, but I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been like 50 minutes and it's already out in town.
And I made a personal decision. I do not participate in social media. So I don't hear a lot of the noise because I can't do it. I can't do it.
I have to say something about that. And I think it's important to let it out. I don't either. I haven't been on Facebook in so long. I have a profile, but I don't check it. And so if somebody wants to write me and reach out through Facebook, I won't see it. It's just, as Nice said, I think I saw it somewhere else. Like, let your action speaks more than your words, So it's like people go in there and just through the words. But at the time when we call the meeting and we see who comes up, that's...
For the security, that unfortunately hasn't been an option because that's how we see a lot of the activity that happens.
Right.
Is, hey, I just got robbed. Or,
no, I understand the need for it. I'm just saying on a personal level, I don't because I don't think that that's the place to have really good dialogue.
Yes.
Did your quality of life go up after making that decision?
Absolutely.
Yes.
The moment I took Facebook out of my cell phone, free. Another. And, it's just, you end up wasting a lot of time answering to people who really at the end of the day are not willing to take their most precious resource, which is time, and dedicate it to something for the community.
And I just wanted to respond to your, to what you just said. And a long time ago, Bobby Johnson told me the best piece of advice I got for being able to live successfully in Nosara. And she said, the only rumor to believe is the one that you started yourself. And I'll tell you, there are times when I hear things being said about the NCA, about other people, about myself, and I always go back to that and I realize okay, I get it. Like, calm down, don't react, just let it go and let it wash over you. And
what a perception check. Like it's
right.
like,
and I come from, we lived in a very small rural town up in Northern California. So I'm used to this, and sometimes it's very, very unpleasant. It can be very unpleasant, but it's just when you don't have a lot of entertainment and a lot of things to do.
And get ready. Rainy season is here, so there's going to be less things to do.
And more rumors will be flying around.
More rumors out there.
Well, I want to thank you both for coming on. I know it was unpleasant. Thank you for letting me ask you all the questions. And thank you for the dialogue. It seems like if I had to try to synopsize, if that's a word I can make up.
Sure.
In 30 seconds, here's the deal. There was a temporary zoning plan discussed and proposed, not passed or enacted. There is still time to talk, give a ton of feedback. It is welcomed. You will support anyone having an opinion. They can go talk directly to the people themselves and share their opinions, or they can go on Mondays to the technical meetings that are happening at 4 p.m.
Well, actually, there's this Monday, there's going to be one at 4 p.m. I don't know if it's going to be every Monday at 4 p.m. or not?
Josue is there every Monday at, from 8 to 4. So if they want to go see Josue, the meetings we still have to define. There's
all right, so let's say it that way. So Josue is available. I mean, Nicoya essentially is available on Mondays between 8 and 3 or 8 and 4.
Here in Nosara. Yeah.
And there will be a technical meeting this upcoming Monday. So hopefully we can get this edited and out by then so people know. And there's still time. And there's actually still, in your opinion, what you're telling me is a good amount of time to make significant changes if people have the feedback and Nicoya deems it viable.
Exactly.
Is that pretty much what we're dealing with?
Yeah. And I want to say one last thing. There is going to be a regulatory plan. Our timeline is 2 to 3 years. It might be sooner. It might be later. So there is going to be change. And it's hard to say it like that. We don't know when it's going to happen and we don't know what it's going to do, but we are working with the municipality so that we can have a regulatory plan that is going to help us grow in a more sustainable way. And some of the feedback that I have been getting is like, oh, I wish I know what it's going to be. How am I going to plan if I don't know what's going to happen? The technical studies are not there, but we're going to be working on them. So it's important to know that and to be aware. I don't want everybody to say like, oh, this was out of the blue. No, we have been working for 2 years already with the municipality to have a regulatory plan, and we're going to keep working on that. So I think that's important for everybody to know there's going to be changes.
So change is coming for sure.
Yes.
The only time you don't have change is when you're dead.
I say you died, maybe.
So like change is always there. I mean, I'm a small time investor myself. You go into a community, you read the rules and regulations, and sometimes in the process, before you get things done,
they change.
A change. So what do I have to do? I have to change. I have to change maybe how I was going to do it or the way I was going to,
adjust.
You have to make adjustments. It's everywhere. Every community works the same way. There are always rules and regulations. We just come from a place where for so many years there were none. But now, given the amazing amount of development and people that we have here compared to there were 10 or 15 years ago, it's even more important that we have something in place so that we preserve the beauty and the character of this area.
I definitely think this is an interesting situation that we're all learning from. Mm-hmm. And the good news is everybody wants Nosara to come out of this okay.
Exactly.
Friend and foe, that's what gives me a little bit of peace over this whole thing. Yeah. Is that at least everybody does want a better Nosara. Yeah. But everybody wants change to happen, but when it happens, it doesn't feel good. Stepping up into being a leader of the NCA and leaders of the NCA, it hurts. It hurts. But that does mean something's happening.
One thing that I want everybody to really understand, because I don't want to have to deal with like, oh, wow, where did this came from? I want people to know that in the Nosara Civic Association, we have been working for 2 years now to have a regulatory plan, and we're going to keep working on that. And, we have a timeline of between 2 to 3 years, which might be before or might be after. You never know with the municipality. But I want people to know that there is going to be regulations coming. A regulatory plan, it's in the law that every canton has to have, and we are going to keep working very hard to make that happen. So, I don't want people to say I didn't know. No, we've been outspoken about this. Change is coming. So,
and I also just want to clarify that to another level. When we say we're working on it, we are not driving the regulatory plan process. There is a process in place. Yes. And Josue at the meetings explained that there's a new manual for all the cantons to follow. It is very specific, step by step, what has to be done. The way that we're participating is we have given resources to the commission through Francisco Jimenez, who's a geographer, to help with any technical information, to help kind of coordinate the work, to help people with their work plans, to make sure that all of those steps are being followed. It's not our plan. They have actually a contract with the National University that we hopefully will be signed. It's been on someone's desk for 6 months. They are the ones that are going to oversee the public participation part of the process. And every stage of the way of the regulatory plan has room for public participation. So it's not going to be the NCA holding the meetings. We are doing this by helping them, by providing them with funding for some studies. We've been raising money on their behalf. They have been getting some more money because The plan for Nicoya and Nosara have been fast-tracked by the government, which is one of the reasons we're hopeful we could get this done in 2 or 3 years. But I really would like to remove this impression in the community that this is our regulatory plan or that we have anything to do with the process. We are supporting the process by giving them someone who can help them with some technical studies that they don't have the personnel to do, the human resources to do themselves,
and also being like
raising money.
Also, like when I said that, thank you for clearing that up. It's not that we are, doing it ourselves, not at all, but it's being there and saying like, hey, municipality, let's move. What do you guys need? Yeah. Come on, let's keep doing. Like, from my little experience, if you're not there,
nothing gets done.
Like, you have to be constantly, it's like out of sight, out of mind. So it's like, hey, remember, you have Nosara also. We were working on this. Come on, people. And just put in a little bit of pressure in the municipality to make sure that this happens.
That is our biggest job, is overseeing to make sure that the process keeps moving forward. But it is not our process and it is not our plan.
I think the perfect example is the trash. How do you think we got municipal trash collection? We didn't hire the company. We didn't even participated on that. We were just on top of the municipality saying like, you got to do this. It's by law. You got to do this. You got to do this. That's basically what we do.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thank you for clarifying that. I think Cookie's going to buy you lunch and dinner.
All right.
Maybe a couple drinks after having to go through all this.
Thank you. Well, that's important mutual. Also. I was worried when I had this vacation plan right when this all happened. I couldn't cancel it. I mean, my husband would have killed me, but it's important to know that the Nosara Civic Association is not just one person. We have a strong team working, and I'm super happy that, our vice president and the rest of our board really did a wonderful job while I was away. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right. So this is an ongoing story. We'll have you back. We'll have updates. I know there's more to come.
Yeah.
And I hope in doing this that a lot of people who still are just about to learn about this and about to go through the wide ranging of emotions, I hope it helps everybody going forward.
I do too. And I really thank you for this opportunity. It's very, very important. Thanks, Rich.
It's my pleasure. We'll get you back. I know the story's still ongoing. So thanks for everything you both do. And from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.